Hello everyone, so this is Precious Jewel with Indulge Catering, and I decided to try to do our first video just kind of showing you a little bit about what we do and some really cool cooking techniques and styles that we have. The recipe that I'm going to demo for you today is our mustard encrust salmon. It's going to be pan seared, and we're going to have sauteed kale and onions. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you get a little bit of some of the indulge flavor that we have and get to see some really cool techniques that we do to try to get the flavor of indulge catering. Okay, welcome back. So the first thing that we're going to prepare really is our stuffing topping or crusting topping for our salmon. The way we do that is really simple. You don't really want to overpower it. Salmon is a very beautiful fish, so you want to kind of keep it light but flavorful. So what I have here is some plain breadcrumbs, some panko breadcrumbs, extra virgin olive oil, yellow as well as Dijon mustard. Really simple, but it can overpower, so you want to make sure you put just a little bit. So what we do is we take, and I like to make this beforehand just to make sure that I have it ready for my salmon. So I take just a little bit of panko breadcrumbs, and you use more or less depending upon how much fish you have. It's just going to be 2 pieces for us. Then I take my regular breadcrumbs, and I put approximately a fourth of a cup, excuse me, shake it up. Put approximately a fourth a cup of Dijon mustard in it. Not a fourth a cup, excuse me. About a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. And then about the same amount of yellow mustard. It doesn't matter the type that you have. I'm just really good with Dijon mustard and yellow mustard. Also, if you want to have a deli mustard as well, something a little bit more grainy, you can do that as well. I prefer it to be a little bit more smooth. I really don't like the seeds or mustard seeds. And just a drizzle of your olive oil. It's really good to get an extra light tasting olive oil, which is great for frying and baking. This way you don't have that really heavy taste on it. If you want to use a cottonseed oil or you want to use any other type of oil, that's fine. And then just take yourself a spoon and really kind of stir it around. And you really just try to make a crust. So similar to how if you're doing like a cheesecake or something of that sort, excuse me, cheesecake or something of that sort, and you have just a sticky crust, then that's fine. That's really what you want to do. If you find that it's not sticking or coming together enough, then you can just drizzle a little bit more olive oil in it. That's really about it. The consistency you want is kind of where when you're picking it up, you're still getting kind of clumps, because when you put it on top of your salmon, you want it to stay together. No really salt or pepper. You can use it to taste, but that's going to go directly on our salmon. Alright, so the next step in this process would be our salmon. So I have my cast iron skillet with olive oil just covering the bottom of the pan on medium-high heat, just getting it really hot, because you want to hear that good that sizzle when you put it in the pan, because it's going to give you the crisp skin on the bottom. If you don't like skin on the bottom, that's fine. I just use the skin on the bottom to kind of keep my salmon steaks together. So this is our salmon. We got the salmon here from Whole Foods Market. The gentleman was nice enough to cut it up for us just in the pieces that we want. I still kind of want to trim it down. I'm really into presentation, so I kind of want to trim it down. A good sharp knife is what you need. And the only thing that I really do is just take it, cut a nice, even. I don't throw anything away, so that'll be used later on. And the same thing with this here. Just kind of trim it up. And then I run my finger across it just to see if there's any bones. If there are, you can use any type of tweezers if you have it. Of course, kitchen, something that you use only for your kitchen. Tweezers, or if you have a sushi set, you can use it as well. All right, so we have everything trimmed up. One of the things that I love to use is adobo. Let me get my towel here. One of the things I love to use is adobo, and you want to also keep your hands, you know, clean. So I use adobo. So I have my adobo. It is a bigger container than most of you have at home, just because it's for our catering jobs. And I just sprinkle adobo right on top. And then a little bit of black pepper. Like I said, I have a lot of, the mustard is going to give it a good little flavor, but I don't want to really overpower the beautiful taste of salmon. Another thing that I like to use on top of here, just to give it a little bit of kick, is cayenne pepper. You do not have to use the cayenne pepper. I just use a very little bit. Just a little bit of added flavor. And that's it. Okay, so just very light seasoning for it. I do have my tongs, and I'm going to go ahead and place this. I have had my heat on for a little bit. One of the things that you can do to make sure is if you take a piece of your, I don't want to say leftover, but scrap salmon, you can take that and put it inside your pan. Or if you know anything about oil and frying, what you do is that it looks like it's kind of melted down and get little rolls in it. That's the right way to do it. So I'm going to take this over to my flame. And you want to just kind of put it down. I'm going to put this pan in the oven as well, so I don't really want to, it's okay that I need to use a cast iron pan. That's the sound that we're looking for. So I want it to go just for a little bit. I already have my oven on 350 degrees. I'm going to come here with a different knife and slice just a little bit of onions. And I usually put my onions in my fire with my salmon, just a couple of slithers of onion, because it seasons my oil. So we let that go. And then you take your mustard. And I like to kind of put it in my hands because I'm going to lay it right on top of my salmon. Alright. And I'm not flipping it because the top of it, the oven is going to cook the top of it. And trust me when I tell you, I kind of have no fear on this. So if you're scared of it, you can always make this a little bit wetter. Put it on your salmon before you put it in the oven. Put it in the pan. And this way you really don't have to touch anywhere near this hot oil. And you don't want to get it too cooked in this pan. You can turn the fire down a little bit once you get it going just a bit. And it's just a light crusting on top, just to give it some flavor. Alright, that's all we have right there. Let me rinse off my hands. Alright, as you start to see the salmon kind of go from this raw color to this whitish color, showing it's cooking, then I put this directly in the oven from here. Also, you do not want to put too much oil in your pan because you don't want hot oil just in your oven like that. So I take this, make sure you're using a pot holder, put this directly into my oven. Excellent. So while that's in the oven working, we're going to start working on our kale. The kale is really simple. Come over here for you. The kale is really simple. It's just kale, It is onions that we're going to sweat down with a little bit of olive oil, and then seasoning of some pepper, some salt, and some adobo. Also going to use some paprika in it as well, okay? So I just have me a deep pan only because I like the way it works. I'm also going to sweat or cook my seasoning. By cooking your seasoning, you kind of extract the oils from your seasoning. So in this pan, I'm going to put my paprika. Alright, if you want to go ahead and get in that pan so you can see, you want to do this a little bit faster. I have some garlic salt. We're going to put some Italian seasoning, which is just a blend of thyme, oregano, marjoram, basil. It's already dried. Some people don't like to use dried seasonings. I don't mind dried seasonings as long as they're not old. Alright, and then we already have some in there, and then my new kick is this cayenne pepper. New to me, not to everybody else. So I just let that go. What I do with that is I let that go. It's already cooking on here, and you want to be careful because this can burn. So my heat is on medium heat. While I'm letting that go, I'm going to come back over here to my onions, and you want to give yourself, I don't really like finely chopped onions in this dish. I want to see my onions. So I'm just going to give myself some slithers of onions and have that to the side. And I'm going to show y'all this really cool trick for kale. Alright, so now watching Worst Cooks in America on Food Network, I thank you very, very much. If you have your stem and you take your hand and you put it over your stem, and then you pull, you gotta start a little bit, you pull down, it takes the stem right off of the kale. Makes it easier for you to chop up. So I'm already smelling my seasonings. If you smell your seasonings, then you pretty much there. Had a little bit too much strength. But if you smell your seasonings, then you pretty much are there as far as the cooking level. What I do at this point is I drop my onions in my pan. That sizzle lets me know we're good. So I drop my onions in my pan and begin to stir. Then I take my oil. Just a little bit of oil is what you need. Don't forget, if it goes too far, it's going to burn. And if it burns, you really don't want to kind of use it. And then I have my vinegar, organic apple cider vinegar, raw, unfiltered. If I say all of that, most of y'all already know the brand. I use a capful, 2 capfuls. You can use more if you like. It's really to taste. I think 2 capfuls is enough. And then from here, we got to put our kale in. So I'm going to go back over here and rough chop my kale. No one likes to pick up one whole leaf of kale when you're eating dinner. So I just bunch it up. I do this with my collard greens as well. I just kind of bunch it up and just cut it. It's a good bite size if you do that. Put that directly in the pot. Bunch it up. And kind of just cut it. Good bite size. Now, don't forget you have no fluid in here, so you want to stir it up really good. It's going to start sticking to the bottom. You don't want it to go too far. I love Tupperware. I have this little Tupperware container. This is 4 ounces. That lets me measure my water real fast. So 4 ounces of water. And you really don't need that much water in here. You see how little bit of water that is on the bottom? Because we're going to steam it. If you put a little bit of water in here, what that does for you is that makes it so that you still get all the nutrients without creating kale soup. Put your lid on it and let it go. You can keep your fire to about medium to a medium low. Alright y'all, welcome back. So it's time to plate up our meal, our dinner. And so it's time to take the salmon out. What I did for the last about maybe a minute or so, depending upon your oven, so please be very careful. I put my salmon on broil. This way I can get my top real crunchy, but not burnt crunchy, but just a little crunchy. So let's see how that works out for us. Please be very cautious. A cast iron pan coming out the oven, if you do not know, is very hot. So as you can see, this is our beautiful salmon. I have a double trevette over here. Alright, so I'm just going to let that rest for a brief moment. It's really, really good. And what I do have for you, very steamy, as you can see, is your kale. Now, let's show you how we plate this up. So what we're going to have is I like to put my kale right in the center of the plate. Okay. And then I take my piece of salmon. If you did it right, it should be really, really flaky. Kind of want to maneuver it just a little bit to get it out of your pan. And I usually grab it by the very top just to make sure I get a good grab on it. And then I take myself a spoon or a spatula if you have a long spatula. Excuse me if I'm obstructing your view. Place that directly on top. And if you're like me, I love crunchy onions, so I take some of my onions out of the bottom of the pan. Just sprinkle it right on top. And that's really about it. It's a very healthy dish for you. It is oven baked, pan seared, light olive oil. Some people don't like olive oil, perfectly fine. But this is our finished product right here. It is pan seared, so we have the crispy bottom with the mustard crumble on top, as well as your sauteed kale and onions. So I hope you enjoyed. This is one of the great meals that we do have. I will tell you this much. The salmon is very, very flaky. So that's one of the things that I do love, is a nice flaky salmon cooked inside. Really, really good. This is going to be very hot, but I'm going to try because it smells so good. Wonderful. I didn't cook the crunch out of the kale because I want still some vibrance in my kale. And as you see, it really has low carbs. The carbs is really just coming from your breadcrumbs on top. So I thank you all very much for watching this demonstration. I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to more to come. Bye from Indulge Catering.